figuring out some things. So I got my front axle completely disassembled. The first thing I actually really need to do for the steering upgrade is get my steering rack mounted to my front axle. But to do that, I need to make a new front axle bearing pivot spot. Old one here, definitely worn out. I broke the bearing on it. So we're gonna replace that. But I want to make it better. I want to make just the bearings replaceable. So what am I doing? I'm using 1/2-inch plate, 6 inches long, 1/2-inch bolts in there, and I'm swapping over to tapered bearings. Right now I'm using these sealed ball bearings, but when I tighten up the bolt, the big pivot bolt there, it puts a lot of side load on the bearings, and these are made for that. So when I tighten this all in, it should actually put some preload on the bearings and make this awesome. So what am I using to do that? I'm using these bearings for one. SKF bearings, you can see the numbers there, you can order those. Those are for 3/4 inch ID. And as you can see there, the OD, that's in inches. So with that, the bearing block itself is going to be DOM tubing, quarter wall, seamless tubing. This stuff's going to work great, and I'll be able to weld that straight on to this 1/2-inch plate, and then just build up a nice sidewall from there and get it all nice and strong. That's what I got to do, all before I can even start my steering upgrade. But this alone is such a great upgrade. A lot of guys are just running a bushing in there, and well, that just don't work for too long. If you actually look on the mower, I installed these bushings in here, and if you look real close, you can see that the outside tube that's welded that I can't replace will never be replaced, but there's an inside bushing that's press fitted in there, so that one sees any bit of wear, and those are actually in phenomenal condition because I'm always greasing them and keeping them maintenanced. So all I have to do is slide that bolt and my bearing block in there, and then it pivots in that tapered roller bearing. So this is such a great mod that a lot of guys should be doing, but again, this is you need some pretty special tools to be building all this stuff yourself and a little bit of knowledge. I've been figuring out a bunch of math on here to well, just make sure this is going to be a one-time deal, not redoing anything. Okay, let's get her done. So as you guys just seen there, I hopped on the lathed out my inner races on the pivot block. Anyways, that will get pressed into there, and then this other one on the back side there. It's not much of a shoulder, but I do know it's very unlikely that I will be able to press past that. That's a few hundred thou in there, so that should work great. Anyways, on to the next point, and that's trying to figure out how to get that on there, and more importantly, how to get it on there perfectly straight and not pivoted or tilted any other way. Alright, we got some stuff figured out. Just check out the visual difference. Well, the old one just looks like turd. The new setup, that's what I'm talking about. I don't like how close it is to this nut, so I'm going to put a little bend on these guys and set them out to the corners on each side, all 4 corners, so that they kind of spider outwards, and that should give it a little bit of triangulation. And well, I know this setup's going to be 100% stronger. On to the next thing, which is going to be getting this kind of all tack welded in, centered, and in the right position. Just at my shop right now where I work, Concord Custom Rods. You guys can see the Ford 140 there. Anyways, getting ahead on this project. This pivot is getting all welded up. Alright, so we got the bearing races pressed in. Nice tight press. Got the bottom milled nice and flat. So, okay. Tack welded in place. We did the centers and all 4 corners. Man, scary stuff. Takes a lot of time just to do that because, well, I don't want to do all this work just to weld something on crooked. Take your time, do it right, measure twice or 3 times, 6 times, 100 times, too many times. The next thing to do is press out these bearing races and then fully weld this thing. And then holy, then we can head back to my shop and we can get some things going. I'm moving on to the actual steering rack. So I got it mounted. Ended up reaming out the holes on the box here to 3/8 so I could put 2 3/8 bolts straight through the front bumper and bolt it on. And then I just finished machining out this ring that goes around the snout here. So with that little ring on there, that just helps from the case trying to split or anything like that. Plus it just helps hold the back end or the front end here down to the front axle, which is great. So anyways, with that done, I got to get the bearings for the 5/8 bolts that go through the front axle here. And then I can get the knuckles together and on the axle, and I can get my steering tie rods built. But until then, I'm going to get this all machined out and get this all perfectly ready to go. The issue we have with these steering racks is there's only 2 mounting bolts. So adding in this top support and the front nose ring there really adds a lot of strength into the setup. I now will not have to worry about this, and we can move on to some other things like finishing off the tie rods. Alright, progression. Check that out. Okay, so the knuckles are almost done. I just got to grind them nice and clean on the tops and make it look good. But we got our height set now. We come over to the lathe, got my heim joint, and 4 chunks of brass. We're going to get this stuff cooked up on the lathe here, and these are going to be offset slash fill in the gap spacers. Anyways, I'm going to get you guys tossed up on the time lapse, and I'm going to get those things all lathed up. Oh, excited for this little project. What a mess that made. But we're done. We got her done. Check those out. That's so freaking awesome. I'm really happy I went with the brass over the aluminum. I know the aluminum would look good too, but brass is closer to the musty color, so unreal. Next thing to do is clean up these corners on the top, make everything look good, and we can start reinstalling those spindles onto this front axle. I got this milled down about 700 thou so that I can get a couple washers in there to ride on the bearings. But holy, Heim joints installed. Wow. So as you can see, that's a very short little tie rod piece in there. It's going to be super stout. Again, these are 5/8 Heim joints. Way too big for what I need here. Way too big. 1/2-inch Heim joints, those are the size that you probably want to do if you're going to do something like this. And even that's overkill. I'm doing the 1-ton ultimate upgrade for now until I do this again on the next one, but better.